Welcome to the wonderful world of English literature. And today, our first book is Henry Fielding's famous classic novel, Tom Jones. Tom Jones, also known as The History of Tom Jones, a Foundling, is a comic novel written by English playwright and novelist Henry Fielding. It was first published in 1749 in London and is among the earliest English works to be classified as a novel. Now, why do we study this novel, its significance from literature point of view? First of all, Tom Jones is a pioneering English novel shaping the early development of the genre. Secondly, Henry Fielding's narrative innovation and social commentary in the novel offer a vivid portrayal of 18th century society. And third is the character of Tom Jones challenges traditional hero norms, paving the way for later explorations of moral ambiguity in literature. Now, let's go for the summary of the novel without further ado. Somerset is the wealthy estate of the kindly and wealthy Squire Alworthy and his sister Bridget. Alworthy returns from London after an extended business trip and finds an abandoned baby sleeping in his bed. He summons his housekeeper, Mrs. Deborah Wilkins, to take care of the child. After searching the nearby village, Mrs. Wilkins is told about a young woman called Jenny Jones, a servant of a schoolmaster and his wife, as the most likely person to have committed the deed. Now, Jenny is brought before the Alworthys and admits being the baby's mother, but she refuses to reveal the father's identity. Mr. Alworthy mercifully removes Jenny to a place where her reputation will be unknown and tells his sister to raise the boy, whom he names Thomas or simply Tom. In his household, two brothers, Dr. Blifil and Captain Blifil, regularly visit the Alworthy estate. The doctor introduces the captain to Bridget in the hope of marrying into Alworthy's wealth, and they marry soon. Now, after the marriage, Captain Blifil begins to show a cold shoulder to his brother, who eventually feels obliged to leave the house for London. He does, and soon after he dies of a broken heart. Now, Captain Blifil and his wife start to grow cold towards one another, and the former, that is Captain Blifil, is found dead from apoplexy one evening after taking his customary evening stroll before dinner. By then, he has fathered a boy who grows up with the bastard Tom. Captain Blifil's son, known as Master Blifil, is a miserable and jealous boy who conspires against Tom all the time. Now, Tom grows into a vigorous and lusty, yet honest and kind-hearted youth. He tends to be closer friends with the servants and gamekeepers than with members of the gentry. He is close friends with Black George, who is the gamekeeper. His first love is Molly, Black George's second daughter, and a local beauty. She throws herself at Tom, who gets her pregnant and then feels obliged to offer her his protection. After some time, however, Tom finds out that Molly is somewhat promiscuous, that she has relations with other men also. He then falls in love with a neighboring squire's lovely daughter, Sophia Weston. Tom and Sophia confess their love for each other after Tom breaks his arm rescuing Sophia. Tom's status as a bastard causes Sophia's father and Alworthy to disapprove their love. Squire Alworthy falls ill and is convinced that he is going to die. His family and servants gather around his bed as he disposes his wealth. He gives a favorable amount of his wealth to Tom Jones, which of course displeases Master Blifil. Tom doesn't care about what he has been given, since his only concern is Alworthy's health. Alworthy's health improves, and we learn that he won't die, he will live. Tom Jones is so excited that he begins to get drunk and gets into a fight with Master Blifil. Sophia wants to conceal her love for Tom, so she gives a majority of her attention to Blifil when the three of them are together. This leads to Sophia's aunt, Mrs. Weston, believing that Sophia and Blifil are in love. Squire Weston wants Sophia to marry Blifil in order to gain property from the Alworthy estate. Blifil learns of Sophia's true affection for Tom Jones and is angry. Blifil tells Alworthy that on the day he almost died, Tom was out drinking and singing and celebrating his coming death. This leads Tom to be banished. Tom is expelled from Alworthy's estate and begins his adventures across Britain, eventually ending up in London. On the way, he meets a barber, Partridge, who was banished from town because he was thought to be Tom's father. He becomes Tom's faithful companion in the hope of restoring his reputation. During their journey, they end up at an inn. While they are there, a lady and her maid arrive. An angry man arrives, and the chambermaid points him in the direction she thinks he needs to go. He bursts in on Tom and Mrs. Waters, a woman whom Tom rescued in bed together. The man, however, was looking for Mrs. Fitzpatrick and leaves. Sophia and her maid arrive at the same inn, and Partridge unknowingly reveals the relationship between Tom and Mrs. Waters. Sophia leaves with Mrs. Fitzpatrick, who is her cousin, and heads for London. They arrive at the home of Lady Bellaston, followed by Tom and Partridge. Eventually, Tom tells Sophia that his true love is for her and no one else. Tom ends up getting into a duel with Mr. Fitzpatrick, which leads to his imprisonment. Eventually, the secret of Tom's birth is revealed after a brief scare involving Mrs. Waters. Mrs. Waters is really Jenny Jones, Tom's supposed mother, and Tom fears that he has committed incest. This, however, is not the case, as Tom's mother is in fact Bridget Alworthy, who conceived him after an affair with a schoolmaster. Tom is thus Squire Alworthy's nephew. After finding out about the intrigues of Blifil, who is Tom's half-brother, Alworthy decides to bestow most of his inheritance on Tom. After Tom's true parentage is revealed, he and Sophia marry, as Squire Weston no longer harbors any misgivings about Tom marrying his daughter. Sophia bears Tom a son and a daughter, and the couple live on happily with the blessings of Squire Weston and Squire Alworthy. That is the end of Henry Fielding's novel, Tom Jones. We'll be back with the next summary of a fabulous book in English literature. Until then, goodbye.